Can you believe that we're into the first week of 2006? Welcome to the first Friday for Village in Motion of the new year. It's January 6, 2006. I'm Diane Havinger, your host. And if I haven't personally said Happy New Year, I've just said it now to you. So I hope you had a wonderful holiday. And you know, I'm a little depressed because I walked through Village Square moments ago and they're taking down the decorations. And I'm sorry, tomorrow's going to be the saddest day for me because that's when we take down all our decorations, and it's, you know, it's kind of like you're into the really dreary days of winter. And can we just skip January? We could do that, right? Yay, that would be great. We have a wonderful show for you today. As always, we're going to continue on our alternative medicine feature that we've been kind of offering about once a month now. And let me first introduce our guest, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And here to help her first appearance of the new year, Ellen DeMucci, or DeMucci, as the president likes to call you.
DeMucci.
DeMucci. And next to her is Allison Hendershot-Rubin, who is our dietitian, and these are our two experts to talk about alternative medicine. And it's an opportunity for us to give you information about how you may increase your health by not always having to take all those pills that we tend to take for different ailments. But I do want to caution you, as we always do, that before you make any changes in your diet, or drastic changes, I should say, or if you decide, you know, I'm going to go off this medicine, don't do it until you talk to your doctor, because we're just giving you some more information, offering you hopefully alternatives of some of the things you may do to increase your health. And that's what we're all about. Today, we're going to talk about fish oil, which has been in the news quite frequently. And let me first start with a recommendation that the American Heart Association has made since 2000. So for the last 6 years, the American Heart Association has said healthy adults, and I'm not sure what they mean by healthy adults, but healthy adults should eat at least 2 servings, if not more, of fish per week. And that will help increase what's called the omega-3 or fatty acids. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about what these omega-3 acids are all about. And there's 2, and it's EPA, which is, Ellen?
Oh, gosh. What are you doing? You're making me pronounce the big words?
Yes,
okay.
The big word.
EPA, and I have to look at it because I have to actually use my phonics to break the word down. It's eicosapentaenoic acid.
And I bet you if you were playing Scrabble, you'd just...
That would be a big point, big triple word score point there.
Yeah.
I would just take my trophy and walk away.
And the other one that you can score big is
the
DHA.
the docosahexaenoic acid.
So if you ever hear those words, you can rest assured you've heard them here first on Village in Motion. So why are these 2, EPA and DHA? What's the big deal about that?
Well, Diane, first of all, I'd like to say your little 2000 guideline about 2 fish servings or more per week is a message that I think we need to drive home a little more clearly, because according to my literature, 85% of Americans do not follow that guideline. That's almost all of us. And guess what? Guilty.
If we're lucky, maybe once a week, do you think we eat a serving?
I don't eat fish at all. I don't like fish. I didn't grow up in an area where it was readily available. To me, it was fish sticks or tuna. That was my extent of having fish. Neither of those are really high in omega-3s. But just as a quick review, or for people that don't know, you know, there are good fats and there are bad fats. Not all fat is bad. We have made almost a 4-letter word out of fat because, you know, fat to us is that extra stuff we carry around that makes us look bad in bathing suits. But there actually is good fats, and those are the omega-3s. And they have a lot of different very positive roles in the body by the way they work, and everything from helping reduce heart attacks to, we're now starting to find they may prevent cancer. They have a role in rheumatoid arthritis because they decrease inflammation. that, they help in women with pregnancy to prevent birth defects. They also have a link with depression now, we're finding out. Omega-3s have some link that we haven't quite figured out yet to serotonin. And of course, serotonin is the substance in our brain that makes us happy. And when we don't have enough serotonin, we become moody and irritable and depressed. So that's something that people are studying
We
now.
could solve the world's problem if everyone ate 2 plus
Isn't that the truth?
of
We'd all
fish.
be happy,
Wow.
healthy. I just don't get it.
Now, Allison, before Ellen goes on, do you eat 2 servings of fish a week?
I don't, but I'm not a big fish fan like Ellen, but I make an effort to find it in other sources like walnuts, almonds, dark leafy green vegetables.
Like that's your spinach,
your kales,
kale.
your collard greens, beet tops, all those.
In terms of lettuce, besides spinach, it's not the iceberg lettuce,
Oh,
right? I mean,
definitely
those
not the
that is like,
iceberg.
why even bother with it, right?
Right. That's my opinion, but I have the right to my opinion.
Well, I will say I do try to eat 2 servings of fish a week. I force it on my family, and Wednesday night is salmon night in my house. And so, see, I usually have enough left over that I can have it for lunch like today or, and the next day. And so.
Why salmon, Diane? That's interesting.
Well, first, my kids will eat it. And it's a relatively easy fish to make. And Allison later on is going to talk about some of the ways to make fish that will keep it healthy. I mean, you don't want to deep fry salmon, which I said I don't think I've ever heard anyone fry salmon, but
we can negate the health effects when we deep fry things.
Right. But I think the key for fish is fresh fish. I mean, I really think if you're a fish eater and lover, you can tell the difference between the frozen, 3-day-old fish, even if they say at the restaurant, oh, yes, it's fresh. If it's not there that day, it's not fresh, versus the real fresh stuff. And I think if you grow up, I think the eastern part of the country, they're in better shape because they grew up with fish,
right.
Versus if you're in Iowa. What do they have? Maybe catfish, maybe? I mean, there's nothing there except for beef.
It's cold water fishes, so.
The cold water versus
Yeah, so, yes.
Well, I know that probably a lot of people think that Allison and I may butt heads because I'm pushing the drugs and she's pushing the food. But in actuality, I tend to think that whatever we can get from our diet, we should probably try to get from our diet. I think fish oils are abundant in the foods that we eat, not necessarily just fish. Like Allison will probably touch on, there is a plant version of fish oil that comes from plants. That's the alpha-linoleic acid, and you can get that from seeds and nuts and other vegetables. But what we're talking about basically when we say fish oils, generally speaking, are the omega-3s. And there are many types of fats. We may hear omega-6, omega-3, saturated, polyunsaturated, triglycerides. There are so many words that are thrown in the mix now about what types of fats there are. Basically, in a nutshell, omega-6, bad fat.
would that fall in the category of like those trans fats?
Absolutely.
That is now.
Trans fatties are usually artificially produced. They're just as bad for you as animal sources of fat. Animal fats are really pretty much the bad fat like we have because we're similar to animals. So our bad fats and animal bad fats are pretty much the same fat. We're just putting their bad fat into our body. Kind of a general rule of thumb, and Allison can probably agree with me on this, and if not, tell me, because this is kind of what I've been practicing. If the fat's a liquid at room temperature, it's better for you than if it's a solid at room temperature.
Correct.
That's kind of
That's a
one
good
way
rule
of
of thumb.
telling.
So you're
If you-
talking about like olive oil versus the
Butter.
Butter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know sometimes when people make homemade soups and then when they take them out of the fridge to reheat them the next day, there's that nice big whitish layer of wax. Bad fat. But when it's warm, we don't see that. So it's kind of tricky to tell. But, good fats, liquid at room temperature, bad fats, solid.
And make sure when you're buying margarines, if you're not using butter, that you're buying a trans fat-free margarine is important to note.
Right, and why don't we name, we're not into brand naming here, but why don't you give us some of those brands that are so-called better for you. Let's not say good for you.
I think one is Smart Balance, and I know most of the time, though, like the label, they promote that like trans fat free. So that's what you're looking for when you're purchasing these items. Look for trans fat free for your margarines. I think Benecol, is another brand.
What about Promise?
Promise, I think they have one that's trans fat free, but you need to make sure that they have that on the packaging, and they promote that.
And these are things that instead of using butter, you may want to go for putting on your sandwiches and your baked potato and whatever, versus pure butter, which has a lot of fat and tastes really good, but maybe not as good for you.
One interesting fact that I found in my research is that our ancestors evolved over time with a ratio of omega-6, which is the bad, to omega-3, which is the good, of about 1 to 1.
Because in the olden days, way before all of us were born, they needed the fat, right? Because they were working a lot more than we work today, right? They're out in the fields, they're building their homes.
Plus, I don't think there was as much mass marketing of artificial crap back then either.
No potato chips.
Guess what our ratio is, roughly, of our bad to good? It's not 1 to 1. I'll give you a hint. It's not even 5 to 1.
10 to 3, Allison said.
It's 20 bad to 1 good.
Really?
Now, is that
So the
what we
scales are
consume?
tipping
Is
very
that what
much
we
not
consume
in
on
our
a daily
favor.
basis, or just on a?
Well, they really don't say on a daily basis, but generally speaking, let's say if you broke it down into a typical American diet would be 20 parts bad to 1 part good on the average. The omega-6s are what causes blood clots, the inflammation. They're linked to tumor growth. That's the bad stuff. The omega-3s do the exact opposite. So they are arch enemies, and we really want to try to get that ratio more to balance out or even favor the good oils, because obviously the 20 to 1 ratio
It's not so good.
is really not looking too good for our future.
Now let's talk to Allison about first let's talk about fish in general, in terms of what kind of fish we're talking about that will give you the most omega-3, the good fats that we want to consume at least twice a week, if not more. So start with the fish.
The top one is salmon, like you mentioned. Then we can go down the list to anchovies, sardines, herring, mackerel, trout, swordfish, and then at the bottom, or close to the bottom, is tuna. Tuna gets in there, but you're gonna need maybe 4 times a week if you're gonna want to.
Now, does that mean fresh tuna, or the canned tuna will suffice, or?
Both. They both have the.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And in terms of how you eat the fish, I mean.
Okay. The important thing to note is don't deep fry your fish. Bake, broil, maybe pan sear, and then finish it in an oven would be the way to go. Do light sauces. Avoid heavy creamy sauces. It's going to really negate, because then you're adding those bad fats in that Ellen just mentioned, when you're covering it with heavy cream and butter and all that kind of stuff. Keep it simple.
To disguise the taste.
Lemon.
Olive oil, garlic is a great one, lemon pepper. I mean, there's a number of ways to do it. Different fish can lend itself to like a tomato-based sauce, something like, but avoid the creams and the fats.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. And I will just throw in again, you want the fresh stuff. Don't go to the store and pick up the frozen or even the previous frozen. Just get to a good seafood place and get the fresh stuff, or go to a good restaurant and ask. They usually have a special that's going to be fish, and just say, is it fresh today? And a good restaurant's going to say yes. They're going to tell you, no, the salmon, we always have salmon. You want to stay with the chef's special for the day.
Right.
And until you get your taste up to that.
Allison, does freezing lose nutrients when you freeze fish?
I think
if you bought it fresh but put it in your freezer to eat next week, or?
I would, over a week's time, no. Over a month's time, yes. Over a year's time, definitely.
Okay.
So I would keep it brief, but you can.
So as fresh as possible.
possible.
Okay. And then if we really don't like fish, even though that was what, at least 6 choices.
Right. And even some shellfish has smaller amounts, but you'd have to eat a lot more, like some shrimp, oysters, scallops, clams. They do have a small amount of omega-3s in it, but it's a small amount. So that's why I didn't really mention them at the top. So if you are willing to eat shellfish, you're getting some, but you want to go with the big numbers here since we're trying to tip the scale in our favor. So.
And a serving size, if I took my hand, we're talking about maybe.
Yeah. They generally say a deck of cards or 3 ounces is a serving size.
Okay. And then if I really, I'm sorry, I've tried the fish, I've tried the best sources, I really don't like it, what do you suggest?
I suggest flaxseed, adding that to baked goods or adding it to cereals. Buying them whole and grinding it in a coffee grinder is what I recommend. I don't like to buy it pre-ground because then it's an oil and it can go rancid over time. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure it's fresh. And then your nuts and seeds, like I mentioned, walnuts and almonds are the best. I think they're great. They're wonderful. Just don't cover them in sugar and salt.
No chocolate-covered almonds, you're saying?
Well, chocolate has a lot of good properties too. So I'm okay with the chocolate.
Okay. And what's a serving size for?
About 1.5 ounces.
So maybe
Which
a handful?
isn't really a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
Okay. And then if I'm still doing that, but I really don't think I'm getting my servings. Ellen, you brought some.
Then Allison would probably send you to my pharmacy, and that's where I would try to sort out all the differences in what we have available in fish oil supplementation. I'm gonna
we have
make
here
a couple
salmon oil right now.
I'll make a
and
couple
omega-3
notations
fish
on
oil.
the differences between these. When you're looking for supplements, make sure you read your label. It's so important that you see what type of fish oil or what type of omega-3s are in there. You want to look for your DHA and you want to look for your EPA. Make sure that there's a combination of both in there. Now, the bad thing about supplementation, and I won't say the bad thing, but the tricky thing is you need to make sure that you're getting a standardized product. When you buy supplements, since the FDA does not regulate that, you could buy a different brand every time and get a different amount of DHA and EPA in there. So what you want to do is just sort of look down your list on the back, look for the ingredients. For example, this one has salmon oil 2,000 milligrams, EPA 160, and DHA 240. Now, the serving size is 2 capsules. So you also have to read and see that you have to take 2 capsules to get that amount of fish oil.
Now, Allison, does it matter when I take those 2 capsules?
I don't think it does.
It really doesn't. The only thing I can say about side effects when you're taking supplements, if you start off too high, you could probably end up with some cramping and diarrhea. We had a physician once here who was he was ahead of his time. He was a big advocate of fish oils, sent everybody down and said, take 4 grams a day, 4 grams a day, 4 grams a day. Well, people were starting with 4 grams a day and having some GI problems that were pretty limiting in what they could tolerate. I would say back up, 2 grams a day is usually plenty of fish oil. Do you agree with me there?
I would agree with you.
1 gram a day is probably good to start, but I would say for most preventative, to help lower your triglycerides or as a good dietary supplement, 2 grams a day is plenty. Salmon oil, we carry this because it is the best source of fish oil. It's the most concentrated. If you want to be sure you're getting, the most concentrated source, salmon oil really is the way to go. Now, cheaper than that is fish oil, and I'm not, recommending one over the other because of price, but fish oil is just a combination of different sources. Where it comes from, again, you'd have to read your label because that's not consistent either. But if you look and see that the serving size is 1 capsule and you're getting 1,000 milligrams of fish oil, basically what you're seeing is these are pretty much similar concentrations. You're getting 2 capsules, gives you 2,000, so 1 capsule would give you 1,000. And this is 1 capsule per 1,000. But this is salmon oil and this is fish oil of unknown origin. So, my opinion would be if I was on, in the pharmacy trying to make a decision, milligram per milligram, they're the same. But we know, at least we know now, that salmon oil is a better source of fish oil. I'd probably go with the salmon oil just to get that more of that consistency. You know what you're getting.
And I'm going to pay more for the salmon oil?
Well, yes and no. This is 50 capsules for $4, and this is 120 for $7. So it really depends, but you have to take 2. So this will last you 60 days. This, the serving size says 1 soft gel, but we've discussed that 2 grams probably is a good maintenance dose. So you would have to double up. And it's just really a tricky way of marketing and trying to figure out, okay, well, I need 2 a day of this, and it's $7.50, and 120, and it's salmon. I need 1 of these, 2 of these, and it's $4.50, and it's $50. It's really not worth that kind of, don't bring your calculator or your slide rule. Just pick the one that, is going to give you the most bang for your buck, basically. Try to pick one where you have to take the fewest amount of capsules a day, because you don't want to certainly add 4, 6, even 8 capsules to your vitamin or your medication regimen. And, you really shouldn't have to spend a fortune on it.
What I find amazing is when we're talking about good health, it's always more costly initially. I mean, fresh fish is going to be expensive. I bought salmon the other day. It's up now. It used to be under $10 a pound. Now it's like $10.99 a pound. And I've noticed it's thinner. It's been thinner. So I think I don't know why that is. And of course we can go into farm-raised salmon versus wild salmon. We won't get into that. And the swordfish, which isn't as good for us in terms of omega acids, you can, that can go as high as $17.99 a pound. But a good steak, on the other hand, I don't buy steak that much, but a good steak is going to run you more than $10, $15 a pound.
Well, good health is a marketing ploy. There's no doubt about it. Labeling at the grocery store and articles in magazines, it is a big marketing scam. So you have to really know your stuff. You have to be a well-educated consumer to know that sometimes paying more isn't necessarily getting you a better healthy option, but sometimes you do have to pay more to have the products prepared, or sometimes it's more time-consuming to get something back to its state where it's healthy, because we've just butchered so much. We've added so much sodium to package it, or we've had to add preservatives so that it could sit on the shelf for a year, and that's a cheap way to mass produce.
But it's also better to pay more money for that salmon, that really fresh salmon, and even though you may not feel the health benefits, there are health benefits, and a lot of people don't put value on that, just taking those fish supplements, overnight you're not going to feel revolutionary, but over time it's better for you. And sometimes people can have trouble justifying the cost, because oh, well, I'm eating this fresh salmon. Oh, what the difference does it make? I'll just buy the frozen, because I can't taste the difference. But sometimes you can't put that cost on those health benefits, because you can't actually physically feel or see the benefits. But in the long run, it is better for you. Oh, why am I eating these leafy green vegetables? The cookies are so much better. Well, you know what? They are better for you, and you might not feel it instantaneously, but it is better for you in the long run.
It would be nice if we had more time to talk about some of the things that down the road fish oils help prevent or reverse. I brought some good information on that, and I'd certainly be glad to copy articles for anybody that wants to see. But there have been studies done that show atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, or the inflammatory process of a heart attack waiting to happen, actually being reversed by as much as 41% in people that take fish oils regularly. So it's not that you're looking for some benefit. You're not going to spring out of bed and be happy all the time and never be constipated or whatever, but down the road, you're going to find out that when all of your friends might be having all of these cardiac problems and rheumatoid arthritis and taking medicine and giving themselves shots, hey, you might still be bowling and walking and being healthy and able to golf and happy. And you know.
Yeah, Allison mentioned earlier about the benefits for arthritis.
Right.
And Ellen touched upon that too. In
Right.
terms of
There's links to, reducing the inflammation from arthritis and, joint tenderness. I mean, that's just from the, the properties of omega-3s and reducing inflammation. It goes right straight to, the same thing with heart disease. It's, directly related.
The inflammatory process in the body, once the inflammatory cascade begins, there are a lot of things that can really go wrong. Heart attack is basically an inflammatory process over time. Arthritis is an inflammatory process. I could just go on and on about all of the things in our body that are an indirect result of the inflammatory process being started. Now, a lot of people take anti-inflammatories like, Motrin and steroids and whatnot. They work by a different mechanism. This is just a natural way to keep your body's inflammation in check without having to actually take medicine or create all of those side effects that are caused by prescription medicines. However, I do want to mention one thing before we run out of time. For those of you who don't really know how to read labels or don't really want to figure it out or go that route, there is a brand new prescription. This is pharmaceutical fish oil. One of the companies was smart enough to realize that if we can get the fish oil in a pharmaceutical grade and have it covered by prescription company or insurance companies, and that you're getting an omega-3 acid regulated by the FDA, you're going to get 1 gram per capsule with the proper combination of EPA and DHA, you're good to go. So some people prefer that comfort in knowing that they're getting something that is pharmaceutically regulated, and it's just an easier way to say, okay, I need my fish oil, I don't eat fish. I don't even know how to begin reading these labels. I don't know if I'm getting good stuff or crap. I'm just going to have my doctor write the fish oil prescription. And it's nice, too, that your doctor will know that you're taking the fish oil. And it's always important for your doctors to know what vitamins you take. But we always forget to tell the doctor when we go see him that the over-the-counter medicines that we take.
So you're saying I can maybe take this, or I could take that, and basically they're equal in terms of the benefits I'm getting.
They are.
And an added benefit for the prescription is that maybe my health plan will cover it, right?
Absolutely.
So it may, in the long run, be cheaper to do the prescription than to put money.
The downfall is, though, you'd have to get a prescription. The plus side to that, though, is if you're traveling or if you lose it or run out, you can always just get the over-the-counter fish oil. But again, say you're traveling, you're in Florida, you run out of fish oil, you run into Walgreens. They don't have the Nature's Bounty. You have to pick up another brand. Is it the same? Are you getting the same? Is it the same concentration? Is it the same serving size? You have to watch your labels when you're buying over the counter and make sure you're getting apples to apples. Whereas, with a prescription, you just know you're getting the same thing every time. Pluses and minuses to both sides, as always.
And as we've said from the beginning, whatever you do, talk to your doctor before starting anything new or getting rid of something that you may be doing. I think you don't have to talk to him about eating the 2 servings of fish a week. He'd be thrilled. And one thing I think with the labels and talking to your doctor, you should talk to your doctor about all the supplements you're taking when you go to see him, right? I mean, you shouldn't just say, I feel rotten, or when you do that annual physical, you should be saying, this is what I'm taking. I'm taking so much C, so much E, I'm taking fish oil, I'm doing an aspirin a day or whatever the case, and that whole conversation with your doctor can really benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Already?
So really quick, Allison, if you wanted to leave our audience with something that they're going to remember today, what would you say they need to do or should do?
Make the effort to add these things into your diet. Tip the scales in your favor by adding, simple as walnuts and almonds to your diet as a snack. And, consider adding, if you want, some flaxseed, a tablespoon, ground up in your cereal in the morning, or throw in some baked goods. You're just happen to be baking some oatmeal cookies. It'd be great in there. It's a nice little nutty flavor add-on. And when there is an option of fish, take it. And maybe it'll be better this time than it was the last time.
I think that sounds great.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up.
And it's a great way to enter a new year, and hopefully it'll be a healthier year for all of us. And as always, I want to thank Ellen DiMucci from Neighbor Care Pharmacy and Allison Rubin from our dietitian dining service staff for coming in and enlightening us. And I was jotting as we were talking all sorts of things we can do in the new year to talk about for future.